Hello everybody, I'm back with another Marvel Legends review, and this is one I've been meaning to catch up on for quite a while. It came out a good few months ago, so I'm a little bit behind, but I definitely want to talk to you today about this set because I feel like it's kind of gone under the radar with so many recent Marvel Legends releases. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts on the latest Avengers 2-pack, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and this represents the first time we've had a classic Ant-Man in quite a while. I remember when Toy Biz released Ant-Man all those years ago, and he was a very sought after figure, very difficult to track down, and used to go for some crazy prices on eBay back in the day. We've had a few from Hasbro across the years, but most of them have been movie themed or modern Ant-Man. So this, I think, is the first time we've had a classic Ant-Man since the Toy Biz years, and I might be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So needless to say, long overdue, and a must-have for any classic Avengers fan. So let's kick off by taking a look at this packaging, and the first thing you're going to notice is that actually this feels like a continuation of the 60th anniversary sets we got last year. It's the same branding, it's the same sort of white borders, the same Avengers logo. It just doesn't have the 60th anniversary logo. That's all that's missing here. It is largely window display, and we can see the two figures on display there looking pretty attractive, looking pretty cool and exciting. Now if we flip it and look at the side panel, we can see a nice image lifted directly from the 60s source material of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Usually they have a figure representation on the other side. In this case, they've just got the same image duplicated on both sides. Now, if we flip it and look at the reverse of the packaging, we can see this recreated artwork of Avengers issue number 4. It is recreated, it is in the style of, and it's very, very similar, but it actually is new artwork, newly commissioned for this piece, I believe. And this is very striking, it looks really cool. I'm not sure why they didn't just go with the classic image, to be honest, but nevertheless, this is very bright, it's colourful, and of course, it's a really classic cover, so it's a famous cover, which is pretty nice. So yeah, this looks very displayable. You can put this on display and it looks pretty cool. The rest of it's given over to the standard branding, but I actually quite like this branding, as I used to comment in some of my other Avengers videos, because I really like the use of colour here. We're seeing blues, reds and whites, and just it all pops really, really nicely. It's very eye-catching. So let's start off by taking a look at Ant-Man, or as he appears here, Hank Pym, because we do have the choice of having two options for this character, which is absolutely fantastic. You'll notice that the way he comes in the packaging is with his Hank Pym head and this fantastic lab coat. But if we start off by talking about this head sculpt, I think they've done a really nice job. I believe this is new. I don't think we've seen this head sculpt before, and I think they've done a really good job. This is a fair approximation of what you'd expect Hank Pym to look like. Obviously, it does vary from artist to artist, but I think they've done a good job here. I really like the expression on his face. It's kind of neutral but serious, and I think they've done a nice choice with the hair there as well. There's some decent paint apps here. We can see some nice colouring, particularly around the eyes and on the lips there, and there's even a very faint light wash running through the hair, giving it a little bit of depth and texture, which I think looks really cool. This has got a lifelike presence to it, and I think it's kind of subtle but quite nuanced, so I think that works really well. I think this is a great head sculpt. Now if we move on to look at the body, the first thing I'm going to talk about here, of course, is the lab coat. This is a fabric lab coat. I really like this approach. I think this works tremendously well. I'm very pleased with this. We've seen the plastic lab coats in the past on figures like Mr. Fantastic, and it's a little bit restrictive, a little bit plastic looking, and I always find it slightly frustrating. This looks absolutely fantastic to me. Now, of course, the body underneath is a standard body we've seen recycled many times before. There's nothing really new or unique to Ant-Man here that has been sculpted in. Even his belt is an additional plastic piece that's just been strapped to the figure and is a little bit loose. The rest of it, of course, has just been painted on detail. But for what it's worth, I think it works perfectly well. There's not much in the way of paint apps here, but he is bright and colourful and pretty accurate to what we see in the comics, so I'm happy, and I think together with this extra lab coat, I think it works an absolute treat. I should also point out his hands. He does have additional hands, which we'll take a look at later, but you can see he's got this gripping hand and this closed fist in packaging. This is important because of the additional hands we'll get to see a little bit later. When it comes to the legs and the feet, there's nothing new here. We've seen this recycled in many other figures in the past, but it works perfectly well. He's well balanced and stands with no issues, and of course there's plenty of posability, as we'll see in just a moment. The only thing I wanted to point out is the slight disappointment that we can see where the detail for where the boots meet the leg, I suppose, between that red and blue. There's a slight discoloration there between the red of the plastic and the red of the paint, and it just looks a little bit unsightly, but I suppose you have to be really looking for it, otherwise it's a very minor gripe. So then, articulation. He has a ball joint at the top of the neck, allowing the head to rotate all the way around, lean left and right a pretty healthy distance, and of course there's a peg there that will allow the head to hinge forwards and backwards a really big distance, which is fantastic. He's got the fantastic butterfly wing joint as well. I absolutely love this on my action figures, as you will probably know by now, but it means you get maximum swing on the arms there, which is absolutely brilliant. The only downside is that if you do swing the arm to its full potential, then obviously that black line is going to be out of alignment and it's going to look a little bit weird. But other than that, he has a ball joint in the shoulder, of course. He's got the complementary bicep swivel. He's got a double joint at the elbow, so if you persevere, you can get his hand all the way to his head there. It's a little bit stiff on mine, but it's absolutely fine. And then, of course, he's got the standard peg at the wrist there, allowing the hand to rotate all the way around, and it will, of course, hinge forwards and backwards as well. Again, mine's a little bit stiff, but that's no bad thing. Then if we move his belt up, we can see he's got a straight swivel at the waist there, allowing him to rotate all the way around, and he's got an ab crunch in the centre of his torso, allowing him to bend forwards and backwards. And there's actually a pretty decent range of motion here as well, which is really nice to see. So he's got ball joints in the hips, the legs will kick out to the side, there's the upper thigh swivel there as well, which works quite well actually between the pants, between the red and the blue, and then the legs will kick forwards, they'll kick backwards, there's another double joint this time at the knee, allowing that lower leg to kick all the way back. There is a cut at the top of the boot cut there as well, so allowing that lower leg to rotate all the way around, and then finally we have the ankle rocker there, allowing the foot to hinge forwards and backwards, but also rock from side to side. So if we take a look at his accessories, he comes with an additional pair of gripping hands, an alternate masked Ant-Man head, 2 chemistry vials, some sort of techie datapad secretary thing, and a miniaturized Quinjet. So if we take a look at this masked head sculpt, which of course is going to be a major draw for a lot of people because that's how we want to see Ant-Man, I think this looks really cool. I really like the approach they've taken to this. Clearly the bottom face there is a separate piece that's been stuck in. I think that works pretty well, though it does look a little bit noticeable, particularly between the skin tone of the mouth and the nose compared to the eye holes there. Just it's a little bit jarring, but I'm nitpicking. Really, this is very, very cool. I really love the antennae in particular. I think they've done a nice job here. There's no real paint washes on this face, but then there's not really much on the body either. In fact, there's none. So at least it's consistent. Now, I do really love the miniaturized Quinjet. I think this is a really fun little additional world-building piece, a nice little prop that you can have so much fun with. I imagine anyone who's skilled at photography and likes doing different displays with their figures could have a whale of a time with this, adjusting for scale and doing all sorts of camera tricks. It could be tremendous fun. and I think this is just a really cool little thing extra to throw in there. So well done, Hasbro. This is actually new and fresh, and it works an absolute treat. And if we return briefly to Hank Pym with his lab coat, and we take a look at some of those accessories there, he's in full scientist mode here, and again looks really very, very cool. I really like these accessories. The reason I mentioned the hands before is because you'll notice he only has one closed fist out of the 4 hands that he has available to him. The rest are all gripping hands, and they're not entirely successful, if I'm entirely honest, here, because they definitely struggle to hold a lot of these props, particularly that datapad thing. You're relying on gravity there to kind of keep that in his grip, but also even the vials, they don't look quite natural in his grip, and they can struggle a little bit. So I thought that was worth mentioning. Nevertheless, you can get some great poses with them, and they look the part, so you just got to persevere a little bit more with these, I think. But all in all, I do really like that we're getting 2 figures here for the price of 1. We're getting 2 very distinct different looks for this character, 2 very different display options, and they both succeed, which is absolutely tremendous. So for me, I'm delighted to give this figure 5 stars. I mean, I can't really fault it. If I was nitpicking, I would say things like it'd be nice to have a little bit more of a wash over the figure, but that seems to be part for the course for Marvel Legends, so at least he fits in with the others without really standing out, and he's an excellent figure. I think he's a great sculpt, he's got great accessories. I really love the cotton lab coat, and I think they've really thought this through and delivered a really top-notch figure here. Next up, we have the Wasp, and again, it's not the first time we've had a Wasp in the Marvel Legends line, but it's been quite a while since the last one, and I don't think we've ever had it quite in this costume configuration before. So if we start off by taking a look at this head, I love this. This is a brand new piece. I think they've done a really great job with the antenna actually physically sticking out of the head. I think that works really well, but I just love the shape, the conical shape of the head there, and of course the microphone coming to her lips. That's very, very cool. If we look a little bit closer and we look at the detailing on the eyes and the actual face sculpt, I think this looks really nice. I think they've done a really nice job here. This is obviously very attractive, but I think they've done a really great job with the paint taps in particular, but especially around the eyes there. They look very lifelike for a figure of this scale, and they're a bit of a piercing blue actually, which is very well done. So I think they've done a great job there, especially the contrast with the eyebrows and the lips and all the different colours they've got here look very lifelike. This is a really nice head sculpt. Now, most of the body parts have been recycled from other figures, but there's actually quite a lot of new elements here. Her tunic, her skirt, and the mini gauntlets as well. They all seem to be brand new to me, as well as her belt, actually. That is all new. I don't believe I've seen this on any other figures, and it looks great. Again, very limited when it comes to paint apps. We're relying purely on the plastic and the rubber materials here to bring the colour and the length, which is, unfortunate, but again, consistent with Hank Pym, consistent with a lot of the other modern Marvel Legends figures that we're getting. For what it's worth, she's very bright and colourful. I think it works with characters like this because you're not relying so much on shading. So I think this looks really good. I really love the attention to detail, and they seem to have really caught the accuracy of the costume from those 60s comics really, really nicely. And I have to say, it's a very cool design, one that I've never really properly appreciated until this moment. Now, if we look at the boots, again, sadly, the boots haven't been sculpted in, and it's such a shame that they've just been painted in there. So yeah, it looks a little bit flat, a little bit two-dimensional, but again, no problems with their standing. Thankfully, they didn't opt for any kind of heels, so she is flat-footed, which is good, especially for balancing and posing. Moving on to the articulation, she does have a ball joint at the top of the neck there, allowing the head to rotate all the way around. It can even lean left and right a really good distance, and it can bend forwards and backwards as well. Not quite as strong as Hank Pym with the actual pivot there, but nevertheless, pretty decent motion. She also has additional articulation in the microphone, which will swivel up and down as well. Then she has ball joints in the shoulders, allowing the arms to lift up and out. There's a complementary bicep swivel, and she has a double joint, a double pin at the elbow, allowing that hand to get all the way to touch her head there, which is fantastic. She has the standard pin swivel at the wrist, of course, so the hand will rotate all the way around and it will hinge forwards and backwards. She also has a ball joint at the torso, allowing her to rotate all the way around, but also slightly wobble left and right and kind of wobble forwards and backwards, but there's not very much here in the way of give, so I wouldn't say she can really bend forwards and backwards. She does have ball joints in the hips, of course, so the legs will kick out to the side. There's the thigh swivel there. The legs will kick forwards, they'll go backwards. There's a double joint at the knee, and then finally we have the ankle rocker, allowing that foot to hinge forwards and backwards and pivot from side to side. So if we move on to take a look at her accessories, we can see she comes with an additional pair of open hands, an alternate Janet Van Dyne unmasked head, and 2 sets of wings. Now the wings just plug into 2 peg holes in the back of the figure, and they are on ball joints, which will allow the 2 sets of wings to open up and out, and they are articulated, meaning they can hinge and they can rotate, so you can put these in any number of different positions, and they look pretty cool. We've seen these before on other figures, but this works really nice. It's a good design and it's very effective, and I think the overall look is pretty much pitch perfect. So between the head and the alternate hands, you've actually got another figure in here, another very distinct look for this character, which is brilliant. Again, you're getting 2 in 1, which is absolutely fantastic. And whilst we're talking about the head sculpt, again, I think they've knocked it out of the park with this figure, because it's a really nice sculpt, really nice paint apps here, particularly around the eyes and the lips. And there's even a little bit of shading in the hair there. There could have been a little bit more to, really draw out that volume and give it a bit more, depth. But otherwise, I think this looks really, really nice. And I think they've done a pretty spectacular job. So once again, I'm really happy to give this 5 stars. If I was going to be nitpicking, it's only really tiny little details that I could fault it. A lack of paint apps, shading on the body and things like that. But otherwise, it's got great articulation, fantastic accessories. We're getting 2 figures in 1, and it's a really nice looking figure. Well, what more can you ask for? And so there you have it. There's my review of the Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, or Ant-Man and the Wasp action figure set. And as I say, I really have to commend Hasbro for really giving us a true sense of value for money with this set, because we're getting really 4 figures, I suppose, instead of just 2. And I love that. I love the amount of display options we have for these characters. I think the accessories are really fun. I think they've done really a a fantastic job on the presentation of these figures anyway. The articulation is fantastic. Overall, I'm absolutely overjoyed with this release. I think it's one of the strongest releases we've had in a very long time in this line. Usually when you get twin packs, usually one outshines the other, but here they're both equally very, very good. And I think, you know, if you're able to track this down, you'll be very pleased if you like these characters. I feel like it's gone under the radar a little bit amongst all the other releases that have been coming out lately, and it doesn't seem to have got as much attention as it deserves, because I think this is actually, you know, a hidden gem. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving the video a like. That kind of thing really does help the channel out, and it allows me to keep making more content. And if you're interested in seeing more content, remember to hit subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos coming soon.